Are you tired of repeating yourself? Are you tired of being ignored by your children? And has it escalated to the point where you have to raise your voice to get their attention? If so, I have a few input for you. Try to think of yourself as a radio station. What you want to be is that radio station where people turn up the volume instead of down. And then think about what would it take for you to do the same. You're driving in your car, a song comes on. What makes you turn up? What makes you turn down? Most probably, you will turn it down even without thinking if it's an old song that you've heard too many times, and by now it's just obnoxious. And that's kind of how your children feels when you talk about the boring things. So if you want to be that radio station that they turn up the volume, then you have to be a little bit more creative. You have to be upbeat, you have to have things that are of interest, things that make them go, I didn't know that, and makes them feel good, makes them laugh. And if you can do that, they won't mind a few commercial breaks with, have you cleaned your room, or did you do your homework, or the things that most parents say at some point. There are better ways of saying those things, but we can get back to that. But the first step for you is to kind of go, how am I communicating? Because if you are that commercial, non-stop radio station, then you're not very fun to listen to. And most people, me included, would turn off the radio. Another thing is that a lot of parents have this feeling that they have to raise their voice to get attention. And be aware that so many kids actually have still the ability to be in a bubble. And they don't necessarily hear you, or they have been trained that it's not really serious until she raises her voice or until dad raises his voice. But there's an alternative to raising the voice, and that would be to actually enter your child's personal space. So you don't have to raise your voice, but if you're being ignored, assume it's because they're not listening, and it's not necessarily because they don't want you or like you, but they're just in a bubble. So if they're on their computer or gaming or watching TV, which is often the case, just put a hand on the shoulder and say, hey buddy, I need you to do this or that, or whatever it is that you want to communicate to your child. All right? It's a very simple thing to do, so spice up your radio station, and here's how you do it. I'll give you an example from my own life. I'm a mother too, and I had recently a situation with my 8-year-old who, I don't know, she was not really paying attention, and she didn't want to really share with me what's going on at school. And as you know, we specialize in bullying, and the first step to helping a child that's being bullied at school is obviously to know what's going on. And for many parents, that's a hard one, because they will ask, how was school? And the answer they get is, fine. So to get beyond that, you have to be creative too. Here's what I did. So my daughter Smilla, who's 8, did not want to really share with me, and it was frustrating because I am used to her sharing everything. So I said, hey, you know what? I was thinking, what do you think would happen if you and I switch bodies? We swapped. Do you think, if I looked like you, and I walked like you, and I talked like you, do you think I could pull it off? Do you think I could make your friends at school believe that I really was you? And you shouldn't do this if you don't have the time to listen, because most kids will be very intrigued by the whole what if scenario. And my daughter was telling me about, everything I needed to do, and including being funny, because apparently she's funny every day, who I was to play with and who not to play with, and what games to play and how to say and do. So I had all this information just coming towards me, and it was amazing. The next question, of course, was, but okay, I think maybe I could try, but how would you pull it off being me? Now that's a very interesting question, because it will give you answers to how your child sees you. And sometimes if I want my kids to project into the future, I don't ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? But I do want them to have, open minds about what are my options. So I'll ask things like, hey, here's a golden ticket. This is yours, and you can be anything for a day. What would you be? And their answers depend on mood and phase of their lives, but it's always interesting to know what they say. And I hope this will inspire you to be that radio station that everybody is loyal to and has as their favorite radio station, because then you don't have to repeat yourself and you don't have to raise your voice, because when you talk, people listen.